Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. Today, we're turning our attention to Bitcoin. And to get started, there has been a dossier of sorts released. I mean, it is, Thomas will describe it to you. It's as poorly written as any Fusion GPS dossier that we've ever read. In fact, as we were reading it, we were thinking that maybe Christopher Steele actually wrote it. And it's supposed to be a 3-part release of really, who is Satoshi Nakamoto, and he's ready to, or she is ready to reveal themselves and claim these Bitcoins that are outstanding. But what I found also interesting was how it was released. We have to pay attention to these things because where we get our news will tell us really what the agenda is, especially when we know easily that it's a propaganda site. So I looked to see how this was released, and it comes from a site called ivymclemore.com. And in the links, I'll have the site so you can look for yourself. It is the worst little website I've ever seen. It looks like a third grader put it together on the fly. No links. The photographs look like of Russian dissidents, and they're all blurry. The writing is just so bad. It looks like maybe a Chinese student who just learned English wrote it. The images for the companies that they represent, which go nowhere, are there. And they only have one blog. So this is this big company on their site. They only have one blog, and it is Satoshi Nakamoto, My Reveal. And so this is a white paper. It's being told to Ivy. So Ivy, a person we don't know from a website that was created who knows where, is giving you the 3-part series. Thomas, you read the first part. What did you make of it?
I couldn't stop laughing because I was certain that Glenn Simpson and his wife, Mary Jacoby from Fusion GPS, had written it. As you say, it was an attempt at being another dossier. But this dossier has the same intent, or the intent, that we said years ago when Bitcoin became, the big thing, and people ask us about it. We kept saying, well, we don't know. We don't know how it can possibly work. Because, we know what. I mean, I'm a cryptologist. I know what hash trees are, and I understand cryptology, but this doesn't make any sense because where is the place that holds the money? Where is the place that does the transactions? Where is the initial funds? Where are the initial people who started this? And this is what we get in this letter is answers to those questions.
Okay, but I want to say something because with Bitcoin, when it first came on our radar, you were there. You're saying, "Oh no, this is probably some CIA thing," and you weren't giving it 2 cents. But I, on the other hand, was looking like, "Oh, maybe I'll put a few bucks in here and get something out." We made sure to cash out about 3 weeks ago because we began to see some things that were happening. I mean, first of all, when Bitcoin is named in a Trump tweet and Trump is not so favorable about cryptos, you have to kind of go, well, maybe it's time for me to examine this again.
Well, a bit of this is speculative, but because of this ridiculous dossier, Satoshi Nakamoto, the supposed originator of Bitcoin, which he was not, and he clearly states in this reveal, and it's one of 3 reveals, and the best part of it is what's at the very bottom. And it's just kind of a subnote. He just, at the very end, says, that's right, I have 980,000 Bitcoins as my initial purchase. In other words, let's call it 1 million. I have 1 million Bitcoin. And I started off with that Bitcoin. And I paid, less than a penny. As a matter of fact, I paid less than really anything. I kind of just invented it. And then in this reveal, it also states that he used a guy, the genius behind this, everybody knows, is Hal. Hal and the people who called themselves the cyberpunks. They were the ones who did all the work and set up the initial cryptology to make sure that the system would be tight. But it is not tight. From the beginning, I can point out so many holes that I assumed that it had to be a rogue CIA invention. And when John McAfee came out and tried to drive up the price of Bitcoin by saying, ridiculous things, he would do this or that if it didn't reach this amount by this time, that is because McAfee and his company came out of a group called TSI, and they had people like Dmitry Alperovitch working for them, a an arrested Russian cyber hacker, the biggest one ever, who now was Obama's number one cyber warrior working through a company called CrowdStrike. And they're the only ones, and Dmitry, the only one who, from a distance, never in person, even looked at the content of the Democratic National Committee server that was supposedly hacked. So the suspicions here of what's really going on is the following. BCCI is a bank in Pakistan, and it was the bank that bankrolled Jimmy Carter. And Jimmy Carter was an agent of the rogue CIA. He worked with Lord Mark Malloch Brown, to create OPTEC to control the elections in Venezuela to begin with, and then elections throughout the world, including in America. So the rogue CIA put their money in BCCI. It's a bank. Well, that bank, of course, was and UBL and their major banker who owns them was basically charged and fined, and it was closed. Well, this person, Satoshi Nakamoto, comes out with this ridiculous story. I can't even... I get so worked up when I talk about this. I'm going to try to remain calm because I said this from the beginning. I said this exact thing that is happening. I said, first off, the person who invented it is fake, and that ain't his name. And if he ever turns in his coins, because he supposedly walked away from the project with his coins, it's going to be when it reaches its height and it's about to crash, and he's going to cash them in. Problem is going to be he isn't Satoshi Nakamoto. And what does the reveal say? That is not his name. And then they try to say in the reveal, this idiot...
Well, they haven't given his identity because that comes into part 3.
Correct. But they're saying that he used numerology to match up his cute little name, some nickname he has, with the name Satoshi Nakamoto. And it so happens that Hal, the man who did all the work, and in this reveal it says that Satoshi admits he didn't do any of the work. None, zero. It was his idea. And he supposedly worked with computers that were so bad that he couldn't do the work, though he could do the work if he would have had the right computers.
Okay, but remember that the words that you are saying that Satoshi is saying, are coming through the words of the company that's pushing this out, Ivy McLemore. So it is hearsay at best.
At best.
And the images are also supposed to arouse your sympathies, because at the very bottom of the page, you have poor Hal Finney in a chair who's gazing at the sky as though he is unable to communicate with his loving wife with her arms around him.
But he's the genius like Stephen Hawkins with the same disease in the same type of chair.
Hawkins, the one who visited Pedogate Island or Pedophile Island or Epstein Island, or what is that island called?
Little St. James.
Yeah.
But we like to call it a Little Willie Island.
Okay, so let's go back to what's going on.
He's fake too, Stephen Hawkins, and nothing he ever wrote made any sense. And people think he's the greatest scientist in the world. No scientist thinks that because his works have all been thrown in the trash. He himself wrote an entire book against his own work, saying it was all speculation.
That's because he was a vegetable puppet. He was a perfect puppet for them to use. Give him a computer where he can type out whatever he wants to say. Really? They used him as a mouthpiece.
He was going to Epstein Island and being used almost weekly, if not every 2 weeks, to make statements that are insane. Insane statements. Same thing. Well, Hal Finney and his cyberpunks did the work to set up the hash tree. No big deal. That's not a big cryptology deal, and it's not secure. And mining it by people who have access to make sure that it's secure, that every transaction is locked into place, is just silliness. There's no such thing. Where is it located? Where's the money? Where's the initial money? Where's the initial coins? Who is the initial person? Why did they use people who are now dead or gone or disappeared, or say they lost all of their coins electronically?
Let me ask you this. For people who might not be up to speed with Bitcoin, why does it matter that Satoshi Nakamoto reveal the identity of his entity and let us know how many Bitcoins? That's important, and let's not gloss over it.
He points out that his whole job of Bitcoin, which he says he took from the name BCCI, the name of the bank, that his job was to resurrect its honor. In other words, bring it back into full swing. In other words, he's saying, I want to bring back what is the most well-known black ops, rogue CIA, rogue multi-nation intelligence groups bank. The bank. I want to bring it back.
BCCI.
Yes. And so he says he created because the domain was taken, he created a new domain called thebcci.net. Well, what's going to happen, because he points out some documents that were supposed to be the big reveal. They're not a big reveal. The initial founding of Bitcoin as online, okay, which was nothing more than a transaction between he and Hal. And so he's showing this. And he says in his reveal that he's going to put his name there to prove that he is the person. He doesn't. And he doesn't put what he is saying is the other name, the bcci.net. It's not there either. And so the first big reveal, it wasn't even there. And what he's saying, anybody could have written, I could have written a better story than that. And there's no information in it. And what it does state is that he did no work, and that he's not a programmer, and that it was just his supposed big idea, and that he called up Hal after Hal had already invented the things that were the basis of having a somewhat secure system.
But why? Why is it coming out now with the reveal? What is in it for them? What is the goal here?
Sorry, he didn't call him up. He texted him from multiple different cheap computers in America and in Pakistan, in the United Kingdom. Oops! What did I tell you about Pakistan and Britain? Pakistan is nothing more. Britain has more control over Pakistan than Pakistan does. Okay? So, BCCI, that is basically a British bank. It's basically an extension of HSBC.
So is this another British false flag?
Oh, absolutely. No. Well, yes, the British are getting their part out.
They're getting their money out of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But I'm confused. But does he have to reveal how many coins he owns now in order to make a settlement on the debit credit page, so to speak, so he can pull this money out?
Correct, and he has to prove it by the transactions, electronic transactions.
Yes.
But to do so, he will collapse all of the coin exchanges, the crypto coin exchanges around the world will be empty. They're not banks. They don't have reserves.
Ooh, I'm glad we got out of Bitcoin 3 weeks ago.
And when it all collapses, when he starts to sell Satoshi Nakamoto, that is about $10 billion. Therefore, at least at this moment, or it could be more or less depending upon the market of Bitcoin. But the point is how that comes out is just the way that Peter Thiel took all his money out. Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, all the originals took their money out of their original Silicon Valley companies now, including Mark Zuckerberg, Eric Schmidt, all of them. And what do? They invest them in new CIA operative companies, like the CIA program called Open Source Works. Peter Thiel, who was involved with PayPal and other things, took all of his money out, put it in this new company, and it's called Palantir. And you can basically go into anybody's Gmail and look at their private account. You can look at their commercial digital account that tells you more about them than they know, whatever you want. Anything is all open because it was built with backdoors. So Bitcoin had to have been built with backdoors, but the backdoors were based upon the dark net. Remember, when Bitcoin first came out, it was not regulated for tax purposes around the world, and a huge amount of people on the dark net, as it was being closed down because of pedophilia, and using Bitcoin and other supposed secure money systems to buy pedophilia and to buy black market things on the dark internet. That is being closed down. Who created the dark internet? The CIA. What did they create it for? Entrapment of criminals. What did they do to track them on that system? They created a thing called Memex. What is Memex? It's the source code for Google, Yahoo, Dogpile. Every single search engine on the internet uses the same base source code, and it all comes from the CIA in Cutel, Highlands Forum Group. And they built this into it, and they gave it out to everyone, exactly as they're doing in China with Open Power Foundation, and later they did here for social networking with IBM Eclipse Foundation. All fake, free source code that was stolen patents. Now, Did they steal patents for Bitcoin? No, those things were already out there. They took some ideas of Hal Finney. Hal Finney's now dead. And the other three people he worked with that talked with supposedly Satoshi Nakamoto, which is the name of a person down the street who was a very dear friend, Dorian Satoshi Nakamoto, was right down the street from Hal and was a friend of Hal's. That's where the name came from. But in the reveal, they try to make us believe that cryptology and numerology was used to come up with the names. Complete nonsense.
Who cares? Who cares what a name is of a monetary system, which theirs is clearly not. It's a big cyber Ponzi scheme.
Correct.
Here's the thing with the Ponzi scheme, people. He who gets his money out first wins. If you wait too long, you're left with nothing.
And Madoff.
Bernie's pales compared to this.
If you get your money out, you make them mad now, don't you?
You're going to make Satoshi mad.
Well, which
because
should have,
if patriots who might have Bitcoin get out now, that leaves them with a less of a value for the Bitcoin.
But we don't know who owns how many Bitcoins.
No, we don't.
So, and that's supposed to be what the mining is all about. And so that's supposed to make you feel that you have trust in a system because you're being paid to make sure the transactions go into the right hash tree box. And basically all that is, it's a fractal, okay? So I could go into explaining this, but I don't want to go into the details because the reveal didn't go into any of these details. The reveal basically said the things that we said had to be part of a scam, or else it couldn't be. For instance, where is the locality? That's like saying the internet is on the computers of all the people on the internet. Stupid! That's what they try to make you believe. If you believe that, then you are truly being controlled by the little black boxes that have control of your mind and your life, okay? No, there are warehouses filled with servers and memory. And that memory is being controlled by who? Silicon Valley. And who gives them their contracts? The government. Who subsidizes them? The government. They are monopolies. Bitcoin was an international rogue CIA Ponzi scheme to create money out of thin air. And they have, but they couldn't get it out except to buy and sell as the market happened, as we all watched the market because of their mythology of mining to make sure that everything is 100% true. If you can't show us the ledger, then you don't have Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a lie. Other people who've come along with cryptos, well, they have a ledger and they have a location and they have computer banks. But no, this one is in the clouds. It's in the mysterious supposed Asian guy. He now says he's not Asian. And what he's going to do is the following. He is going to take his money out. He's going to cash in his coins because there's nobody there to say that this person isn't that.
Well, let me just say too, if you follow Trump tweets, you have noticed the last week that the first comment under most of the Trump tweets I saw was John McAfee. John McAfee has come out the last 2 weeks. Interesting timing because of what I said earlier about what might be going on, is screaming and yelling everybody needs to buy Bitcoin. And how does he get his position as the first tweet underneath a Trump tweet?
McAfee owned a antivirus company. Wrong. He owned the fake antivirus company that is directly CIA, that allows the back doors and makes sure that the right people can get in and that viruses will be put in your computer when he wants them. He has in QTEL, he has CIA cyber warfare capacities, and anybody can get them now because Palantir.
Well,
I just told you.
How does that get him up to being the first tweet all the time?
Oh, no problem. If you have Palantir, I can go into your account and mess with it all I want. I can do remote control of your account.
Okay, so they've had a behind the scenes really big push for average people to get suckered into buying Bitcoin. That's what I'm seeing.
It's just like the stock market. It's fake. It's being propped up. 1/3 of the assets of the 12 central banks, 1/3 of their assets are in the stock market, first time in history. That's why it's propped up. It's going to crash. But they're selling off now because they have to make money. Same exact Ponzi scheme, and the U.S. Federal Reserve controls that. You might as well say Satoshi Nakamoto is the U.S. Federal Reserve in this scam. Now, who is he really? He's a group of CIA rogue agents who were using the smart cyberpunks who would not give their cyber intelligence to DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Development Agency, or to In-Q-Tel, the CIA's version of that. So they were rogue. So what happened? They were approached on the internet by Satoshi, who would never give his name. He never gave a name. That name was given to him, and he took the name from Hal. And Hal knew Satoshi Nakamoto, but now we hear that Satoshi Nakamoto is not his name. Now, here's the reveal that we're going to tell you. He keeps mentioning _ the capital B, capital C, capital I.net. That's going to be the name on the account because that's the name that the rogue CIA used. So they have the documents and they have a bank that they're running it through. It has to be. That's stupid to think otherwise. And anything you exchange on the Bitcoin now goes through your bank, and the U.S. government gets paid their taxes. Therefore, Bitcoin is no longer the tool of the rogue CIA to do their dark net, their dark purchases.
Money laundering.
They're money laundering.
But hey, look, if you're a person out there and you engaged in illegal activity, which it was legal to purchase Bitcoin, you might listen to what we're saying, do your own research, and perhaps now is the time to revisit your holdings.
I actually do believe that it is Fusion GPS who is representing this person calling themselves, I should say, Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay, so we have we have three parts to the reveal. So we've discussed the first one. The next one is going to be in about 12 hours from now, and we'll listen to that and we'll report to our community what we heard, what we found, and then when he reveals his identity, which is happening the next day afterwards, we will also do an audio on that. You in agreement? We'll do that?
Yes, and the three are for legitimization.
Yes.
And the website is for legitimizing this ridiculous dossier because it is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
They also ask for your contact information because they're gathering names.
And remember, folks, if there is a hash tree for every transaction, then they have your IP address. They know everybody who transacted anything with Bitcoin. So therefore, all the crimes must be erased. I suggest to you that Bitcoin will crash and be erased, and along with it will go crypto coins, and later it will only be nation states that back up a crypto coin. And then at that point, it's going to have to be backed up by something, because we said from the beginning, this is a Ponzi scheme based upon nothing. It's based upon the fact that the person who started it knew that if they started off with something that they say they paid 1 penny for, it doesn't matter whether they ever paid that 1 penny. Later, when it's worth $10,000 a coin. Don't feel bad if you were suckered into this. This is the most sophisticated scam, currency scam that has ever happened. And the reason it happened is because the climate accord was on shaky footage, and when the IMF special drawing rights was no longer going to be used as the international currency, it was going to go to carbon footprints. And when that was set aside, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies leaped forward because they're all based upon what? Trust. Nothing else but trust. Nothing else but that if I buy it now, it will be worth more later. That belief. But you could buy it now and it will be worth nothing later.